The autumn of 1993 was unnaturally cold in the Sierra Nevada mountains. Mark and his best friend, Steve, both seasoned hunters, had driven their beat-up pickup truck deep into the Plumas National Forest for a final hunting trip. Before the snows hit, they were miles from the nearest road, setting up their camp beside a small, almost stagnant creek. The isolation was profound. The only sounds were the wind and the crunch of dry pine needles underfoot. On the second night, as the fire died down, they heard the first sound. It wasn't a howl or a roar, but a clear, melodic whistle, coming from the deep tree line about 50 yards away. It sounded human, perhaps someone signaling, but it was too perfect, too hauntingly precise. They exchanged nervous glances. They hadn't seen another soul for days. Mark, dismissing it as a peculiar bird, tried to go back to sleep, but then the whizzing returned, this time closer and distinctly different. It mimicked the four-note call of a nearby owl, but ended with a curious, airy trill that no owl could make. This was intelligent. This was listening. Steve sat bolt upright, grabbing his rifle. There's no animal, Mark. That's a trick. They stayed awake, gripped by a primal fear. For the next 2 hours, the entity in the woods continued its terrifying symphony. It started by mimicking the sounds of the forest, the snap of a dry branch, the cry of a distant coyote, but then escalated. It began to mimic human sounds they had recently made, a clearing of the throat, a frustrated sigh from earlier, and finally a perfect, chilling imitation of Steve's own laughter. The laughter sounded delighted, cold, and right beside their tent flap. The fear was no longer about an animal. It was about something that understood them, something that played with them. They grabbed their gear and fled the campsite in the dead of night, stumbling through the dark, silent forest. As they reached their truck and fumbled with the keys, the whizzing started one last time, a final, triumphant, incredibly loud sound that was clearly Mark's mother calling his name, a sound she had only ever used when he was a child in trouble. The sound was so close it felt like a cold breath on his neck, and it ended not with a trill, but with a sound like tearing fabric. They drove for hours, never daring to look back, knowing whatever was out there was not a ghost, but a predator with a wicked sense of humor.